What is Dylan Sampson's ceiling? That's what I want to ask Jimmy Hyams about today. And I say that because I thought he was really special at the end of the Kentucky game and making a lot of guys miss. It's brought to you by Andy Mason, AndyMasonRealEstate.com. Best prices, best service in the biz. And Andy Mason will take care of you for all your real estate needs. 40 years combined experience there in Knoxville. And Jimmy, before I get your take, I didn't say hi to Caleb. Hey, Caleb, how are you?
I was going to say, I really took it personally. And, Jimmy didn't say hi to me either. Jimmy just said, how are you, Dave? I should just leave the show, guys.
It's the Hyams and Hooker show. Let's just go ahead and take your mic away. Jimmy with a snazzy haircut, if you're on YouTube, by the way. I like that. Jimmy, let me ask
Caleb, I'll say hi to you if you get another haircut, but until then.
I think your hair looks fantastic. As long as we all still have it. I saw a friend on Facebook recently that doesn't have it anymore, and he's struggling a little bit. All right, and I do have some widow's peaks. But Jimmy, what is Dylan Sampson's upside? I wrote a couple of articles on him, just eye test wise. I see him break some tackles that are just really out of the ordinary to me. I think he can be a really, really special player.
His ceiling is Alvin Kamara, and he also happens to wear number 6. He reminds me a lot of Kamara. And even though he's 190 pounds, he runs with more power than that. I thought Alvin Kamara ran with more power at Tennessee than people gave him credit for. And Kamara was a little bit bigger, but I think that play in which he took the shovel pass and broke tackles to get a first down late against Kentucky by Sampson, that really impressed me. He's got a nose for the end zone. He scored. He leads the team in touchdowns scored. He can catch the ball out of the backfield like Kamara did. I think he's a tremendous running back. The interesting thing is to see how much weight Tennessee tries to put on him. I mentioned I think he runs with more power than his weight would suggest. But they also I remember when Jalen Wright came to Tennessee, and he weighed maybe 185, 190 pounds. He was a track star. He won state in North Carolina in like the 55 or 60 meters, whatever it was. And he was reluctant to put on weight initially because he thought it would impact his speed. Well, it didn't. He's up to 210 pounds. Sampson, I wonder if he can carry that kind of weight. I don't know that he necessarily needs to. You'd like to get him over 200, though. But I think he's his ability to catch, his ability to break tackles, his ability to run with vision, with balance, all of those things remind me of Alvin Kamara.
Agreed. Caleb?
I was thinking in my head, like, would Alvin Kamara be the peak ceiling? But then I started to debate, because we've talked about it before, somebody like Charlie Garner. But then I'm thinking, Jimmy, comparing the two, I guess Alvin Kamara would be the higher ceiling. He surpassed Charlie Garner at this point, right? In terms of who was a better Tennessee and NFL running back.
Yes, he did. And the interesting thing about those two is that Garner shared time with 2 other running backs at Tennessee. Mm-hmm. There was little man Stewart and Aaron Hayden. And now you've got a situation, and then Kamara split time with Hurd. And now the situation with Sampson is he's splitting time with Jabari Small and Jalen Wright. So none of those players probably getting as many carries as they could have or should have had during their college career. But I do think that Kamara has surpassed Garner. Garner was a good NFL player, but not as good as Kamara. And I don't know. Bush Jones kept Kamara in the witness protection program for a while before he unleashed him against A&M. But I think, to me, Kamara was the better back. But that's not to disparage Garner. I thought Garner was a terrific college running back and a good NFL back.
That's kind of funny to me, because I thought you might say Garner was the better of the three. We're going to ask the message board who has the bigger upside, Sampson, Garner, or Kamara. I think the biggest problem with Kamara was that he didn't play as much because they paid Jalen Hurd to come to Tennessee, and Jalen Hurd might have flipped on them had he not played extensively. That's my thought.
Well, here's what I think happened with Jalen Hurd and that departure. And Dave, you'll remember this back to the Outback Bowl. They change names all the time. I think that's what it was in Tampa. They played Northwestern, and they played Hurd in the I formation. And there was debate about whether he's even going to play in the game. So from the I formation, he gained, 140 yards, was the MVP of the game. And he had been promised by the staff they'd run more I formation instead of the zone read, and they didn't. And so he got really frustrated and quit at the end of the South Carolina game. So that led to his departure. So I don't think that the staff was truthful. And then you finally unleashed Kamara, and Kamara showed some flashes of being a good back when Hurd was there. But when he became the man, goodness gracious, he was so impressive. And certainly he's done a great job with the Saints. But I don't know about all this paying of Hurd. I will yield to your expertise on that, Dave.
That's what I was told, but we'll just leave it with that. When you pay players, that's the problem, is they can flip on you and turn you in. But anyway, Caleb, go ahead, sir.
Jimmy, do you think there's ever any plans to, because I saw Jalen Wright as an all-purpose back last year while Jabari Small was the workhorse back, but Wright has turned into the workhorse back this year. Do you think there's plans at all for this coaching staff to make Dylan Sampson a workhorse back in the future? Or do you think he's always going to be that change of pace, all-purpose back, and somebody else is the workhorse back?
It depends. Next year, if Wright and Small come back, he's not going to be the workhorse, right? Now, if one of them leaves, he'll get more carries. But down the road, it's possible he would be the workhorse, but that might depend on how good Cam Seldon is, or the running back from Alabama. It might depend on how good those guys are. You can justify playing Wright and Small a good number of carries, right? So I don't have a big issue with that, although I think Small is the third best running back out of that trio. So I think it kind of depends on the development of other players, and it depends on whether Wright and Small stay at Tennessee.
I thought that Tennessee handled those three tailbacks perfectly against Kentucky. Jalen Wright was hot early. He was the power back. Jabari Small didn't really play that much because they were fine with what Jalen was doing. And then once the defense is tired a little bit, you bring in Dylan Sampson, who brings that quickness. The antithesis of that was the Florida game, where I think they forgot Dylan Sampson was on the team. Do you feel confident about Tennessee handling these three tailbacks moving forward?
You broke up. Do I feel confident what?
About tailback? Tennessee handling the carries of these three tailbacks moving forward?
I think so. The Florida thing was, in my opinion, kind of ridiculous. I heard it, well, we fell behind. Well, you led the game, and so, you scored the first touchdown. So that part of it, I don't buy that. I think they screwed that one up. I think they also realized their mistake. So I think they'll continue to rotate him. To me, Jalen Wright is I think he's a special running back. I predicted for the year he'd gain over 1,000 yards. The only thing that would keep him from that is injury or divvying up the carries. I mean, my goodness, the guy's had several games where he's averaged right at 10 yards a carry. So I think he's really good. Sampson's a little bit different kind of a back, but I think he's special also. I think Small is just a pretty good back. I don't see anything special about his game, except he does give a lot of effort. But I think they've got a pretty good feel on how to handle this. And against Kentucky, each of them may get 10 carries, whatever. They should blow. I'm sorry, against Connecticut, they should blow out Connecticut. It'll be interesting to see how they divvy that up. But I think they've handled it for the most part. I think they've handled it pretty well, and I think they've got a pretty good read on how to handle it the rest of the year.
Jimmy, am I crazy for bringing up this comparison? And it's not exact, but I think it could apply specifically when we're talking about Dylan Sampson. But I remember when USC had their running back stable in 2005, where Lindell White would be the bruiser back for 3 quarters, and he would just wreck defenses. And then the defense would be gassed, and they turn Reggie Bush loose in the 4th quarter against the tired defense, and Reggie Bush gets all the yards. He goes and gets the Heisman because of that. Do you see now there's no Lindell White really among Jalen Wright or Jabari Small, but do you see kind of a situation like that here where Jalen Wright and Jabari Small kind of wear down defenses for 3 quarters, and then the strategy is in the 4th quarter, just turn Dylan Sampson loose and let him be the Reggie Bush and get all the yards on a tired defense?
Well, we saw that against Kentucky. It wasn't necessarily true against Virginia because Sampson was the first. He was the second back to play. Wright started, and then Sampson went in ahead of Small, which I thought was interesting. Caleb, I don't know if they're married to that. I think that the Kentucky game fits your example perfectly. I would be in favor of getting Sampson some more snaps earlier in the game rather than just waiting till the 4th quarter. You've got halftime to have fresh legs, right? If you're a running back. So I would like to see Sampson get some more carries in the first half. rather than just wait to the fourth quarter to unleash him. So I'll be curious to see how they play that out. But to me, what I see going forward is Wright gets about 60% in the first half, roughly. Small gets about 20 or so percent. Sampson's going to get about 20 or so. I hope that adds up to 100. So
Sure,
I think that's 60,
1
20, 20.
divided by 2. And
So I kind of see that. And then I see Sampson getting the majority of it in the fourth quarter. But I would not just hold him out till the fourth quarter. I think he's too good for that.